So you all have set off through the now considerably cheerier forest of thither, being led by Squirt the oil can,
Oh, and we
carried.
also sent Starback.
Oh yes,
Oh, that
yes.
was right!
You returned Star to Durlagron, the displacer beast. Um,
We did
sent.
get to end on a happy note.
Yes,
Yep.
I knew there was something. Okay, sorry. Sorry for
Nope.
blurting that out.
Nope. That was a good callback. That was a good remember.
Yeah, it was really cute. Okay. We can go
All
on our
right.
adventuring
So
journey now.
j- jumping in, um, i- you follow Clapperclaw the Scarecrow and Squirt the oil can for some time, um, before the forest around you begins to once again darken. But unlike the darkness that seems to have presided over Loomlarch, where the light was still, or the twilight sky was still visible, but simply not, um, the light was simply not reaching. This the trees start to grow thicker together. Rather, the branches begin to interlock more, and slowly, almost unnoticeably at first, but then building until it becomes far more apparent. The upper canopy of the trees here, in addition to simply having the thicker interlocking branches, have begun to become coated in gossamer webbing.
Ooh.
Unlike the webbing that you saw um, in the forests and um, the caves of the mine near the little nameless village that you helped secure, I guess, from the Ettercap threat, these webs never thicken to the point of a threat to you, to anything larger than, say, a cat, actually. Um, they never even get to that point, I mean, and they stay mostly in the upper canopy until, as uh, you all, well, other than Banner, really, begin to feel the fatigue of having traveled for many hours, approaching what would certainly be closer to nightfall. Were you on the material plane? Excuse me, I'm already losing my voice. Um, the the webbing begins to thicken until the trees themselves grow closer and closer together until they are nearly impenetrable, and you feel that you have reached some sort of barrier, but for a almost a tunnel in the um, in the trees, in through the branches, an archway that is um, coated in the same light webs that you have seen, that are not sticky. They easily break if you were to run a hand through them. And when you reach this point, Squirt calls for Clapper. "Hey, stop! 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 This is the place. This is the place." Okay, so we're to get to Yon, you gotta go through Yon Spinner's place. Now, it's a little different of a domain, but it's moved in kind of recently. Sort of sort of I don't there was a just a way through the trees to a mountain pass, and now we've got to go through. Uh, I, it's called Fable Rise. It's a little. Well, you'll see. I hope no one's afraid of spiders, cause well, you'll see.
What remind me what spiders are again?
I
Spiders?
make an illusion of a, frankly, a very gnarly spider.
Oh, those.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
No.
don't like them.
Okay, well, I mean, Jan Spinner's he's real nice. Whatever dealings you've had with spiders before, this Jan Spinner's you'll see. But I just wanted to warn you before we cross in. Okay, just just a heads up. Also, things are gonna get a little weird. All right, Scarecrow, move it.
Hey, be nice to Clapperclaw.
That was nice.
Nicer.
All
We treat
right, this little
Clapperclaw with the
squirt.
utmost respect.
All right, Clapper Claw, if you would please.
There you go.
I gotta get back. I got some rigs that. Oh my god, they're probably a mess by now. And you travel through the what essentially becomes a tunnel of this webbing, uh, probably about 20-ish feet across. It never becomes claustrophobic or closes in on you, as the light begins to fade until there is just enough to see about 10-ish feet in front of you for those with no dark vision or anything. Not the spider. Um, and traveling for probably a good quarter mile or so, the the exact opposite effect begins to occur. The webbing once again separates out, and um, the light around you grows brighter and brighter until you step out into what is an almost picturesque meadow. There is a huge clearing suddenly ahead of you as you exit the tunnel. You are mere feet from this clearing, probably 40 or even 50 feet across, and just wall to wall with animals, deer and raccoons and possums and skunks and rabbits and birds and everything you could imagine. And they all sit. Oh, God, I lost all my hand. They all sit somewhat enraptured as standing on the far side of the clearing and taking up probably 60 or so percent of it is perhaps the largest spider you have ever seen in your lives, and I'm hoping that popped up.
It
Yes.
Oh
did.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, that definitely popped up.
And in its two frontmost legs, uh, indeed holding a very large and intricately gilded tome, it it is clearly in the middle of some sort of story, and you listen for a few moments as this gigantic spider speaks of a lowly common hero, common human, not hero, who well does become a hero. He has no particular magic. He has no particular uh, love from a deity or anything like that. And with nothing but determination, he is able to, hailing from a simple farm on a backwater area of a land called Oerth, he descends into the hidden city and is able to retrieve from it a very powerful artifact, a phylactery of some sort of uh, some powerful lich, and he is able to bring it from the darkness of this hidden city to the foremost expert on these sorts of magics. And as the story comes to a close, and the spider closes up the book very, very delicately, this hero swears an oath to go through with the uh, the quest necessary to destroy this phylactery.
Is
And
the Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, finish up. I'm so sorry.
I was going to say, as as the story finishes, and the spider in one of its forelegs sort of tucks up the book, um, and um, and looks around, the animals begin to slowly disperse into the forest, and you are nearly positive that you can hear them speaking to each other, not barking or chirping or yipping or anything like that, but actually speaking in common to each other. Just, oh my god, I can't wait to find out what happens next. This is just and that sort of thing, just actual common. And as the crowd thins out, a voice pops up from very, very close to you, a simply high pitched "Welcome, welcome to Fable Rise. You must be new here."
Ted, your voice!
Hoot hoot!
Ted, don't do this! Your voice is dying! Ted,
I need to pop up. I'm using this for this guy purely because I love this art so much. It's literally the inside of the module, but
This is the guy talking to us?
this is the little guy talking to you.
Oh my god.
It's a guy.
Who should I say is here to speak with our archfey yard spinner? Lord of Fable Rise.
Okay. Yes. My name's Arlen. This is Court. Forgive him. Banner and Hemlock. At your service. And Arlen does a very neat
he is.
bow.
Okay, and what brings you all here to Fable Rise? Are you just passing through? Do you need to speak with the Lord of the Realm?
I'll telepathically, because I can do that, with my helm of telepathy, uh, ask everyone, do you think perhaps the yarn spinner might have some information that might help us with, I don't know, perhaps how to cause an eclipse?
Cannot hurt to ask. The worst that will happen is they will say they have no information for us, and we will carry on.
Uh, yes, yes. We would like to speak with the yarn spinner and perhaps learn uh something they might know.
Okay, I will approach His Majesty. You stay here. Don't move from this spot. And he, with a very surprisingly agile hop, begins to cross through the clearing. You can see him hop up onto one of the spider's legs, up a number of protruding bits of chitin, until he is sort of resting directly on the center of the giant spider's head. There is clearly some back and forth, and um, they well, the giant spider rather turns and begins to disappear into the tree line behind you. It takes a few minutes, but you could see the frog making his way through the clearing in little hops and jumps. The book is what let me the book is to his size how big, say, a regular hardback would be to a human. So, given that he is absolutely enormous, that book is probably 15-ish feet, like bottom to top. It is a truly enormous book.
Thank you. That's delightful.
And as the frog reappears, His Majesty says that he will meet with you tomorrow. He has prepared lodgings for you if you will follow me.
That's very gracious. Thank you.
And with the same hopping and jumping, he goes about a quarter of the way into the clearing before uh, turning left and heading into the tree line. And about 20 or 30 feet into the forest, the same sort of gossamer webs that existed outside are lining the trees here, and excuse me, you see a number of the birds and other creatures that were listening to the story have all begun to have all begun to bed down in their nests, as you find yourself standing in front of what looks like a cabin. It is roughly 10 feet to a side and about 15 feet or so high. But rather than being made from wood, the entire thing is made from thick spider webs. The door stands open and looks like it should swing as normal. There is somehow a porthole window in the top of this uh, in the top of the door, and there are a few more of them on the walls of this small cabin. Um, the door open, the frog steps to the side of it and bows and gestures you in. The yarn spinner will certainly meet with you all in the morning. I will come get you when he is ready for you.
Thank you.
Please rest well, knowing you have the safety of yarn spinner Lord of Fable Rise. You are under his hospitality and therefore his protection.
We can't thank you enough.
Are the floors and walls of this cabin sticky?
They are not.
Hmm.
The floor is actually not webbing. The floor is
Gotcha.
actually just forest floor. Um, there are there are what looks like web sacks that have been cut open into hammocks stuck to the walls of well, I mean not the, yeah, stuck to the hanging within this structure. Uh,
Oh boy.
there are otherwise no lights other than um, the omnipresent glow of the realm, which does weirdly and uncharacteristically for the time you have spent in Prismere, here it seems to dim as though a sun were setting. It never truly goes out, and becomes dark, dark. But whether the webbing itself thickens to block out more light, or whether the light is simply fading to simulate a setting sun, it does darken around you.
This is cozy.
Certainly better than many of the places we have stayed thus far.
I want to go climb in one of those cut open sacks.
It is certainly springy and comfortable, if not entirely warm. There's no blankets or anything like that.
How
It's
do you
just his
think
head poking out of there.
how do you think the yarn spinner has managed to evade the forces of the Hourglass Coven?
Did you see him?
It just seems unusual. They were able to overpower a unicorn.
He's huge.
He is really fucking big, I'll give you that.
And this location seems to not be in any of the three domains, so perhaps it was able to carve out its own territory, unseen by the Coven. But we have an audience tomorrow, so if we are interested, perhaps he will share that information with us.
I want to address Clapperclaw and the what's the oil can's name?
Squirt.
Hmm?
Squirt.
Squirt. Squirt. What? Remind me again, Squirt.
Hmm?
Why are we talking to the big spider?
I don't know. I was just trying to get you all to Jan. Jan's on the other side of Fable Rise.
I believe the hope was that the large spider might have information that would be helpful.
Oh.
Perhaps information, as Emlock indicated, um, to cause a eclipse, which we know would be most beneficial for the challenge ahead.
Mhm.
Oh. Well, if he has
Little
any
squirt.
secrets other than that he's just a really huge spider, seems like a really fun dude. So
Just think about all the stories he knows, though. We got to believe
yeah,
him, you know.
yeah. Hey,
Mhm.
um, Court like kind of shifts around in his. You see, like the little sack he's in, kind of move around. Fred, is everyone? I don't know. Is everyone okay? Oh, I know we got Starbuck and Clapperclaw. We found you again, but you were lost, and we did some. It was just a
We
lot.
we made a mistake, but we did what we thought was right in the moment, and we can't regret trying to help, even if it doesn't always turn out the way that we want it to.
Yeah, but are you okay, little chief?
I don't know yet.
Court nods. Looks expectantly at everyone else.
Hemlock will look over at a banner.
Uh, Unfortunate that there was not a better solution to the problem at hand, but I am certain that there was none. So I am happy that we did the best that we could under the circumstances, and I am sad that I will not get to speak with Will again.
Mhm.
But better to have known him and had the conversations that we did.
Mhm.
He'd like to sit on that throne. He was very
Mhm.
comfortable in it.
Hemlock?
He sort of snaps into attention. I feel like I share the sentiment of the others. It's a
What?
loss to be mourned, and it will take time to heal.
And what of you, Court? How are you?
Mm, I don't know. I've always hated hags, but this is something else.
I agree.
I think I was really, I don't know. I was just mad at first, but I think I think I'm with Little Cheese. I'll be okay. Will Will's goals and everything. He did what he wanted to do and what he did for those kids and his legacy, I guess, that'll live on. So, that's good. And we're gonna go kill some more. We're gonna go kill a hag. So, Clapperclaw, how are you? You okay? You were alone for a while there.
Yeah, I'm good. I I did a lot of walking around that place, but it's fine.
But you have.
Thank you for doing so. We weren't
Hey,
trying to.
Hey, I have a question. Does Clapperclaw have legs?
yeah.
Okay.
It's a good question.
I
He
wasn't
was a
sure if he
scarecrow.
yeah, I wasn't sure if he
I
was
Yeah.
like
thought you
on his
were
stick.
asking him directly. That's why I used that tone. Sorry. Hold on. I have a thing.
I don't remember if Clapperclaw's on a stick or not. So I was trying to think if I should make a joke.
Clapper Claw,
Oh!
you just pogo
Only
sticking
he no
around.
longer has he no longer has the gourd for a head. He has his original stag skull.
Oh man, those I bet those stick legs of yours are getting pretty beefy, huh? That's the joke I wanted to know if I should make or not. Thank you.
Pretty good.
All right. Court looks kind of uncomfortable. He's like, "Okay, thanks, everyone."
You all, well, three of you anyway. Anyway, um, how, how are you? Are you guys just all going to bed? Are you setting watches? Is anybody staying up? Is there anything anybody needs to do before everybody crashes?
Um, what is the temperature situation in this hut?
Pleasant,
Okay,
slightly cool, 50-ish degrees.
okay. Um,
Rub it in Tyler
I
and Max's face, why don't you?
What?
Because Tyler was saying how hot it is. Never mind.
Oh, I missed that entirely, apparently. Was that while I
Oh,
was disconnected?
I guess so.
Maybe.
I thought you were still there, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was because it was right whenever when Ollie asked you and I how we were doing, and I said it was hot, and you said, "Oh, my internet." So,
Oh, that's true. Sorry.
um Banner would like to take a little time and gather some wood and start a small bonfire just outside of the door to the hut. I mean, a reasonable distance so that I don't risk burning this thing down. But I'd like to have something that generates a little light and I don't have to necessarily worry about maintaining too much.
Okay. Easy enough to do. Um, create a ring of stones to keep the wood and the embers together.
Mm.
There's certainly plenty of dry enough and broken enough wood to get a little fire going.
And I'll just sit out by the fire outside of the door to the hut.
Before, as we're getting comfortable and everything, Hemlock will just pull out the last packets of rations that he has, and give them to Court and Arlen, 5 each.
um, thanks. Why are you giving us all your food?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? I don't need it.
What? Why? What are you talking about? Don't be. Of course you do.
I don't mean to sound perhaps tragic or melancholy, but I am not in need of it anymore at all.
You better explain this one further, my dude.
Um, he opens the book, the dark
I should have
tome.
known this was a dark tome thing.
I have no need of it, and you two are, uh, well, you do. So
We're we we're the eaters out of this group.
I don't.
correct.
Oh, okay.
Besides, there's some of these are things I couldn't even eat beforehand, and he paws through one of the packets and kind of winces, and it's perfectly edible. I can't have it.
Okay. I pull a jelly bean out of my pocket and throw it at Arlen.
I do my very best to catch it in my mouth.
It's a very stale, sticky jelly bean, by the way.
Oh yeah. Now, I mean, Hemlock, you can still eat if you want a slice of cake or something, right?
I suppose yes, but
Jelly
I
bean?
don't really. No, no, thank you. Um, I prefer lighter fare usually.
so cotton candy, not roast beef. Got it.
He kind of gags. Yes, yes.
You just not meat?
Correct.
Popcorn? He pulls a piece of
Fine.
popcorn out of his pocket.
I would.
He throws it
It's
at you.
it just bounces off his forehead. I'm 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 going to go smoke with Banner.
All right. Hey, little cheese, you should really try these things. They're crazy.
The jelly
He
beans?
no, he hops back into the little sack.
Wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
The spider hammocks.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
course, just swinging back and forth in one of them.
Easy enough to climb into. They are strangely comfortable for the cocoon of feeling that you get laying in a a giant hammock made of spider web. Anything else before three of you drift off to sleep? Is Hemlock sleeping out by the fire, or is Hemlock going into the cabin?
I will like borrow a cigarette, but then I will go sleep. Sorry, inside.
Okay.
Can't wait for a
As
few of us to be picking it out of our fur later.
it seems to only stick to itself.
Whoa.
Wow. Much like
Sorry.
the
Need for speed. Ka-chow.
Yeah, we live near a school, so people clearly have
Hmm.
issues.
We
What
also
the
live
fuck?
right on an intersection, so anytime someone comes through on a motorcycle, they like love to gas it.
Rev.
Yeah.
It's so cool and sexy.
Their dicks are huge, and you know it.
Sorry.
No, sorry. That's going up on YouTube. Okay, all right. Off the chains.
So sorry.
You're not on the motorcycle. You don't need a sidecar for that, so, As, you each drift off to sleep, and um, in the relative darkness of Fable Rise begin um, to sleep through the night. The dreams you have here are each as vivid and realistic as you have ever had. Um, if it were not for the fact that the three of you who sleep find yourself dreaming each of the time spent in the Witchlight Carnival, um, you would wonder if you had perhaps been whisked away and were in fact now awake. Um, you dream separately. You are not all sharing a dream or anything like that. As the um, you as through the night, um, you find yourselves once again, enjoying the gondola swans before being dumped into the water, or um, making your way through the Hall of Mirrors and witnessing the engagement of the two halflings whose names I don't don't have to look up to remember or anything. Matter. Essentially, a an incredibly vivid recollection of your time at the Witchlight Carnival, um, with perhaps one slightly strange alteration in that, as each of these very poignant and happy memories passes again for you, as if almost as if experiencing it for the first time. Each time out of the corner of your eye, just so close to the edge of your vision, you're not sure if you're actually seeing it or if you're just imagining it. Perched on top of the big top tent, you are seeing Yarn Spinner, the enormous spider, who watches placidly, doesn't is not um, doing anything, and by the time you turn to kind of verify what you are seeing at the corner of your vision, it is gone, and you are once again enjoying the many of the events that you that have already transpired at the Witchlight Carnival, and it doesn't happen every time. You know, you witness the not only the engagement of the two halflings, but that of Candlefoot and wow, did my brain just Palasha, Palasha, the mermaid, and no yarn spinner, and so even when you eventually wake in the morning, you still sort of ponder, was that actually there? But overall, the dreams are pleasant, as you once again go through uh, the brightest moments of the Witchlight Carnival. For Banner, however, who does not require sleep and um, doesn't really dream, you are seated out by the fire you have made. The flames uh, dancing across the firewood that you have brought, the occasional pop as a pocket of air is exposed and catches, um, and it has been at least 2 or 3 hours since the last of your companions' breathing has slipped into the steady pace of sleep when a impossible to miss and making no attempt to hide itself, a an almost a pale and somewhat translucent apparition of a of an enormous spider appears, coming through the tree line from the direction you know to be the clearing. This is not nearly as large as Yarn Spinner. This is perhaps only 20 or so feet tall, instead of the probably triple that for Yarn Spinner himself. But it has certainly many of Yarn Spinner's characteristics. The same, the same, I guess, face, as much as you could say a spider has a face. But certainly the same. For instance, the legs you saw holding the oversized book. These have the same markings, the same uh, chitinous protrusions that you saw the little uh, God, what do you call the person who announces people? Not Page,
Barker? Harold?
Herald. Thank you. The little
Mhm.
frog heralds hopping up, um, and as it uh, pulls the probably the first half of its body into the clearing to stand opposite you, with the fire in between you. It just barely nods its head and regards you with all eight of its eyes, which reflect the firelight, oddly enough, for what is clearly a an apparition because it is translucent. You can see the trees and things behind it, or not behind it, but through it.
Good evening. Uh, are you out for a walk? Are you here to visit? How may I help you?
Both of those things. I have come to see who has welcomed themselves to my realm and how you came to be here. I find it easier to converse in this form, if you will forgive me.
Certainly. Is it all right if we allow my friends to continue sleeping?
Of course, that is why I have come now.
Well, I will answer any questions that I can. We have disposed of two hags. Thea and Thea are free from their influence. And we are on our way to Yan to see if we cannot repeat our successes.
I am afraid I have no idea of what you speak. What is a hither or a yon? And, well, I mean, dispatching of two hags is no small feat. They're distasteful creatures. How is it you came to Fable Rise?
Well,
That's
that will be a most difficult question to answer if you are unfamiliar with that which exists beyond Fabelrise.
this is my domain. There should be naught but the wilds beyond this domain.
Well, there are, in fact, other domains
Mm,
beyond this one. Um,
yes, yes. But each of those should connect directly to the Feywild.
well, whether they should or not, I cannot say. I can just say that currently, at least one of them, the one that we have come from, which is named Dider, and was most recently ruled by a Granny Nightshade, who we have dispatched. But that
Nightshade. Granny. I know this name. I'm sorry, please continue.
no, it is unimportant. I was just going to say that that is where we came from, and so at the very least, that area is connected to this one. But if the name Nightshade is has meaning to you, that is of more import than anything I have to say, please, if you do not mind, if you could consider again this name and see what memories it may bring to the surface.
I'm simply sure I've read it somewhere. I have read a great deal of stories, a great deal of histories.
Mm.
I know much of your, well, not you specifically, but the place you come from.
Yes, well, that makes two of us. I have been around for quite some time. Let me ask, in all of the stories that you have you read any stories about a hag who can only be destroyed under the darkness of the moon blotting out the sun?
His little front on a crab, I would call them clappers, but I don't know what they're actually like mandibles. The things that it uses to like clean its eyes, they
Mhm.
do that. They do that thing that spiders do, where they sort of scrape across their face. He is this ghost is clearly pondering for a moment. No, no, I'm afraid this does not ring a bell at all. I
Hmm.
must ask, you seem considerably the elder of your adventuring party. The others are, well, they lack your relative experience. What is it that has brought you together? This seems a, well, perhaps that's a rude question. I should wait till they are awake so they can speak as well. But
Well, I believe that is true, that we should allow them to each answer that question in their own way. Um, I will simply say that in a realm that is, in fact, quite far from here, we all uh, met each other and um, became intertwined as a result of circumstance. And although the initiating event was uh, quite upsetting, I think I can say uh, with certainty for all of us, I know that I, for one, have found myself quite pleased that our fates have all pointed us in the same direction. They are wonderful individuals, and I think you will reach the same conclusion when you have an opportunity to speak with him.
I very much look forward to it in the morning once I have finished sleeping.
Anything I can do for you in the meantime?
No, that I can think of. My realm is yours to explore as you would. I do ask that the sanctity of my creatures be kept, but beyond that,
Well, that is very kind of you. And I do not know how much energy, if any energy at all, it takes to maintain this form. But if you would like, um, when we came, I noticed that you were um, telling stories to the creatures of your realm, and overhearing them, that sounds like a frequent occurrence. And I thought perhaps, if it interests you, I have many stories from the past, from the realm I am from. And if you would like, perhaps I could tell you a story.
that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. I do very much love stories, collecting them, telling them, hearing them, learning them.
And as long as the apparition cares to listen, I'll start telling stories. I'll start with my time in the Amasker Empire and various battles I was in, and go from there.
With practically unmoving, focused attention, this spider listens to you for hours, and it is not until the light around you begins to grow, and your colleagues begin to stir. You hear the first footsteps as they awaken, and when you turn to look back at the spider, it is simply gone, as though it was never there.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
the oop, okay.
No, as I turn back and start putting out the fire, well, I just hope I was not talking to myself this entire evening. That would be upsetting.
The three of you begin to come to consciousness from uh, what was a very restful evening, full of the vivid dream and wonderful memories of of how the four of you came to be traveling together. The light and the light begins to brighten as the cobwebs begin to thin, and the trees almost seem to um, move their branches to allow more light in. Banner is seated outside still.
How did the night pass?
Oh, well, are, are you asking me? It was fine. I either had a very lovely and lengthy conversation with a apparition uh, form of our host, the yarn spinner, or I have gone quite mad and spent the evening speaking to myself. I am fairly certain it is the former, but I thought I would mention I have no evidence to support that fact, just in case.
Oh,
That's fun.
it admittedly would be quite impressive after as long as you have been in operation to suddenly draw madness now.
Yes, I can
But
care. It is highly unlikely, but as I said, I was up telling stories to this apparition for, well, just until moments ago. And I turned around and it was gone. And I'm, I'm, I'm fairly certain that it was in fact here. And we will find out shortly if we go to speak with the Jonsman. And I have to go through an entire introduction again. And there may be some problems that we must discuss.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw like a Drumbo spider guy in my
Oh, whew.
dreams. So, but
I
just
did
for
as
Whoa.
well, but
a
that
minute.
doesn't really surprise me.
Whoa, you guys too? That's crazy.
Well, I mean that is in fact crazy. I agree, God, and I sort of wish you had brought it up a little sooner before I went on about my potential madness, because that seems even less likely now, as the Yon Spinner seems to have found a way to visit all of us. Um,
I would never dream of interrupting you, my friend.
you are very sweet to me, God.
Well, I suppose even if we were visited in dream, that it is still expected that we hold audience, yes?
Yes, I guess we'll just wait for our escort, and hopefully they will be back soon.
Jelly beans, anyone?
No, thank you.
Sure enough, it is only a few more minutes that pass before the little frog herald comes hopping up to the hut that you all have been sharing, and as
Sorry.
much as a frog can look worried, he is very clearly, at the very least, distracted as he hops past the like continues past the hut for a good 2 or 3 feet before he catches himself and uh drops down to all fours to very quickly hop back. All right, uh his majesty yarn spinner is ready. His majesty yarn spinner is ready to his lord, the lord is no, come this way please. And
Certainly.
uh, hopping once again along the same path by which he brought you to the cabin, as you make your way into the clearing, there are a number of animals who are all gathered in a large circle, all staring at something on the ground that their bodies block from where you are, and there is a certain amount of hushed muttering. Uh, you can't quite make out any of what is being said. Oh my god, I can't stop burping. As you pass, it's about 20 or so feet away from you. As uh, you are heading across the large meadow in which Yarn Spinner was reading to everyone yesterday. And it's about 20-ish feet off uh, to your left, which is the way that Yarn Spinner went out of the clearing yesterday. Um, and the as you walk through the clearing, many of the beasts turn around to look at you somewhat cautiously, and certainly with a not necessarily fear, but a suspicion that was not there when they saw you yesterday. And as your guide breaks the other side of the tree line, the muttering begins in 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 the muttering begins all over again, and if anything, a little more in earnest than when you stepped into the clearing. You follow to a a s- a structure, in as much as your hut was a structure. This seems to be a little more solid. There is very obvious stonework at points, but despite the size of this building, which is easily uh, a easily 100 feet long or more, there are occasional stone pillars, but actual most of the actual walls, as it were, or the doors, are once again made of the same webbing by which your hut was created. And as you are led up to a pair of double doors, you can see beyond an incredibly large chamber with um, rows and rows of books. You are in possibly the largest library any of you have ever seen in your life. Um, Towering above you, the shelves just seem to go up and up and up 40, at least 50 feet before they disappear the um, into the webs that seem to cover everything here in Fable Rise. Despite the webs, however, everything seems warm and cheerful and well lit. There are a number of luminescent mushrooms that grow out of the stone pillars, and the strange uh, glow continues from many of the places in uh, on the bookshelves themselves, with mushrooms growing out of the spaces between uh, two uprights, or in many cases simply popping up on one of the shelves itself, right in front of the books. And as you are ushered through into this enormous room with the your host, my lord, your guests have arrived. uh, and the monstrous bulk of Yarn Spinner, this enormous spider, climbs with surprising grace the down the webbing that extends all the way to the edge of your vision, and he settles himself probably 50 feet from you. There is a small wooden table, 15, 20 feet long, maybe 10 feet in front of you, running lengthwise away from you. And uh, you watch as Yarn Spinner's front legs begin to wave, and his uh, speaking in some strange language that is not quite Sylvan, not quite anything really. He summons to the table and just a feast, full of full of pastries and bacon and uh, boiled eggs and various breads and anything you could want. Um, well, I mean, not anything you could want, but within the limits of create food and water, but fancified. And he, you can see Yarn Spinner's the legs that he was using to hold the book go out in a welcome gesture. Welcome, welcome, my guests. Please, I know that you have just awoken. Please help yourself to anything that you might enjoy. I am Yarn Spinner. I am lord of this domain. I am the lord of Fable Rise. I am the storyteller. I am the I am your host. There was going to be a weaving joke, but I couldn't get it out. Uh,
I appreciate it nonetheless.
We'll all imagine our own.
yeah, yeah. Just pretend I said something cool.
Yeah, dog.
Very funny. So, tell me, what is it that has brought you to Fable Rise? Very few come here. In fact, other than that one, and he gestures with one leg at Squirt, none have come through here in quite some time. Ages, in fact.
Well, we were escorted here, and
I'm
we.
sorry. Forgive me for interrupting. Your names. My herald has done a very poor job.
Ah, I am Hemlock Thirstborn, and this is Banner and Court and Arlen. Um, we were brought here with our friend Clapperclaw by Squirt. um, we were told that through this way we would be able to find Yon, and we have only stayed so that we might perhaps seek some of your wisdom. And his eyes kind of and head like turn around uh, at the vast arcanium, the library around, and says, "And I feel secure in implying that we have perhaps made the correct decision."
Mhm.
He catches your eye going around to the various books and waves three or four of his legs around the room. There is a copy of every history text ever written across three worlds in this scriptorium. Many of these books I have written myself, from things that I have seen or dreamed or witnessed. I don't know this Yon that you are searching for, and your companion, and he gestures with one leg at Banner, mentioned a place called Thither, which is equally alien to me.
These places were once Prismere.
Prismere, Zabilna's realm.
Correct. It was fractured by a coven of hags, and we aim to rectify this. It deserves to be whole, and the people of each realm deserve to be free.
Hmm. Hags have shattered her realm. That might explain a few things. I was unaware that our domains had come to cross. But if she is no longer in control of her realm, that would explain how they have so. It might also explain. I don't imagine any of you have harmed one of my denizens.
Certainly not, and would not, if so, it would be out of misunderstanding.
Yeah, we don't have any reason to hunt critters.
Hmm.
I'm
No,
a big fan of critters myself, actually.
My
yes,
Look
back
at him.
crawls
He
out from my
practic
clothes.
look look at him. He practically is one.
we arrived yesterday. Your herald took us to the cabin. My three companions went to sleep shortly thereafter, and I spoke with your apparition until the sun came up.
And I had
So,
really vivid memory-like dreams.
Hmm. That is indeed a feature of Fable Rise. And truly, Banner, I enjoyed our conversation and your stories very much. I have read much of the history of that place you called home. What was it? Mul Mulhull? Regardless, to hear the stories or to hear that history from one who has witnessed it is far more enlightening than even the greatest of books. But no, what I am referring to, and perhaps you saw them as you crossed the meadow, one of my denizens, a deer. For the first time in the history of Fable Rise, one of my creatures was found dead. There were no marks to explain what has happened. There were, well, I do not understand how or why this has happened. And that is unusual, for everything within my realm should be open to me, and yet this thing remains unknown.
We are sorry to hear for the loss.
Mhm.
We, as we have moved through these realms, have met a creature that felt itself within its right to bring harm to a unicorn. We prevented such harm from coming.
We've met a lot of people like that. Ugh.
Mm. If, as you say, you have traveled through the realm of hags, that hags corrupt the things around them. They turn light to darkness and beauty to corruption. I will answer anything that you might put to me if it is within my power to do so. It is the perhaps not the greatest of advertisings of my ability that I am unable to solve this, but whatever you might need.
Perhaps we may be of service to you, then?
If you would be willing, I would certainly not require this in trade for my knowledge, but would welcome it.
Well, we'll
Mm,
definitely do what we can.
yes.
I think our big question, um, we are heading after the last of the trio, the cherry on top of the sundae, and um, well, I guess actually the cherry will probably be like the princess that's supposed to be here, but this is more like the strawberry scoop that's on top of the vanilla scoop and the chocolate whatever. So we need we need an
Neapolitan.
eclipse. We need an eclipse, and I don't know if like making an eclipse is possible, but perhaps in like your library you might have like I guess a star chart is not really a thing here because it's the Feywild. So like, how does
Almanac,
the
maybe?
Feywild have an eclipse? You know?
You are very
Feywieldian almanac.
it's you are very correct that an eclipse in these realms would be very difficult, if not impossible, as you can see, and you see his eyes dart up and his legs spread, and then very quickly he pulls them down. Well, okay, not here, but outside, you would see at the very least that there is no passage of time. The sun does not set, the moon cannot rise to block the sun. There are a number of spells. I have some magics from a world called Kryn, where eclipses are very common, but none would function here in the Feywild. I
So would
am
we need to get her to some other place then?
that could work, or perhaps a spell to create the moon in the sky. That seems
That seems like some
Hard.
pretty big magic.
Yes.
hmm,
Like I can fill an area with some molasses, but that's you know.
And perhaps darkness could be upon her, but I don't think that that is. We know very little except this explicit that she may be killed in under an eclipse. I don't think darkness would be sufficient.
I am afraid my knowledge of hags is very academic. I have studied them in general, but never one so specific as the one you seek to confront.
Perhaps the realm of Yon will have more to teach us once we are there.
Perhaps there is. I hope there is still much I may help you with, and I may have a few things to ease your journey, but is there nothing else with which I can assist?
Do we have any other questions?
I know it is a long shot, but it's a particular long shot since you have mentioned that you have not seen or heard of visitors such as ourselves in a long time. But Any chance you have seen a gnome about the big? Similar red jacket to the one I am wearing?
Does this gnome have a name?
Harold?
Harold.
Harold, whatever his name is, since I don't have the document up.
Get him, Adam. That'll show him.
Yeah, hell yeah.
He ponders for a moment as you give him Harold's full name, which I also don't have the document up, so I don't know. I wasn't trying to call you out on it.
No
Uh,
worries. Uh,
he thinks, and you can hear his little mandibles clicking as as Yarnspinner begins to ponder. That name. Where have I heard that name? And with just absolutely startling speed, this spider leaps about 25 feet into the air, grabs onto the bookshelves, and skitters up and up and up and out of sight.
Hey, Ted.
Yo,
That's fucking terrifying.
oh, that is
It's like you're trying to make Arlen piss himself.
that is the old Babel Pitch charm. Apparently, he has been here.
apple bitch, that's what it was.
Babble
that-
bitch?
Babel Pitch.
Oh,
Bitch.
okay.
Although, although we may need to retcon some stuff. Yeah, it's Harold Babel Pitch, and he talks like this.
Yeah.
Babel Pitch.
About 2 or 3 minutes after he disappears from sight, you are equally startled when he simply falls to the ground. And despite his large size, there is virtually no noise as, excuse me, as his 8 legs find purchase on the floor or various parts of bookshelves, and he lowers his huge body down almost silently to the floor of this. What do you want, phone? To the floor of this library. The um in the in his front 2 legs, he has a book. This book is incredibly small compared to him, although it is still for human sized, what would be like a um about it's basically, the book's about like 2 feet tall, which in his massive legs looks incredibly tiny, and it is um uh unlike the book that you saw him carrying yesterday. It is fairly plainly covered in a brown leather cover, and there were at one point words on the spine, but much of the gilding or embossing that would have spelled out the title has faded away, and you can just see um, the word history written across the top of it.
Just history.
It's
Just
just
history.
history.
You can see kind of like half of the word of, like you're pretty sure that that's what it is, or that's supposed to be an 8, who knows. And with sort of a very strange set of movements, the book is brought up to his up to the little tiny, like, again, I can't remember what they're called on spiders, not mandibles, not clappers, because that's on a crab, but the little like mouth hands that are not actually teeth, but not actually full legs. And uh they sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Flitter back and forth as the book is opened and pages are turned, and uh, finally one of them sort of jabs the book, which is turned and placed on the ground in front of you. Uh, and yes, Babel Pitch. I knew that I remembered that name. And with one leg, he pushes the book towards you.
I'm gonna be a fucking war criminal.
Yeah, I'm gonna start reading.
Um, what you see is actually a picture with a caption, and there you see a an artist rendition, basically, of your friend Harold. Um, unlike the outfit that you remember him in,
Mm.
the sort of um the bright colored jacket, the bright red showmanship stuff. Here he is in what is clearly some sort of battle attire.
Mhm.
He is in a set of leathers, although he does not seem to have a weapon on him. You do see a number of accoutrements which you have seen uh, other spellcasters use as focuses. And standing next to him in the picture is a tall human with dark shoulder length, kind of scraggly hair, a very thick, dark mustache, with a sword in one hand and a shield in another, and they are the two of them standing on top of a ruined pillar that has fallen over. Um, and the caption simply reads, "Harold Babelpitch and Strongheart survey the lost city." I have not met Harold, unfortunately. I would very much like to. I have read a number of a number of his exploits in his time with the human called Strongheart. This is you. You know him. You are friends with him, and you say he is lost somewhere here in, well, not here in Fable Rise, but in Prismere?
Yes, we have tracked him through the pieces of Prismia that are now here and there, and we are continuing to track him into Yon. All indications are that he is there, and the latest information that we have is he is still alive. I wish that I could tell you more information about his time with Wrong Art, but this is news to me. It is in fact rather surprising given all of the stories of my exploits that I have shared with him. None of the stories he has shared with me have been about combat of any sort.
Mm. Well, I do hope you find him, and if you do, if you would, I would very much enjoy hearing more of your stories and his. The perspective of history is by far my favorite subject. I wish I had more useful information to give you. This this tome contains the only reference I can think of to to Mr. Babblepitch.
Well, it is any information is helpful. I certainly hope that we are able to be reunited, and should that time come, and should we have the opportunity, I for one would be happy to return and tell more stories, and perhaps together we can convince Harold to tell us of his time with this individual named Strongar.
And the rest of you, is there anything that I might provide? Any information you might seek? I I am perhaps not I am no seer, but much that has been done I am aware of.
You
Hag secret weaknesses?
For hags in general, or I mean, I can there are a large number of hags throughout the history of the realms. They seem to permeate many of the material plane worlds. Startling, really.
Mm, what's the name of our upcoming hag?
Endolin.
That one.
I'm afraid, as I've said, I know nothing of this Endland.
Okay.
Despite her age, she has not, uh, not age, despite her power to break the realm of Prismere, she has not made her way into a history book.
Then yeah, hags in general. I know we need an eclipse for this one, but if there's an off switch or anything we need to know about, that'd be also, as a backup plan.
I have a number of treatises on hags, and he skitters around to a few shelves,
That is
retrieves
mesmerizing.
retrieves a few tomes, one of which is a navy blue leather cover, the other is an old wooden cover, and sets them on the table in front of you.
Mm. Do you have a summary for me?
I could spend some time reading.
Yeah, that'd be great. Not my strong suit.
It's one of mine.
Then
Do you?
perhaps go ahead.
Sorry. Another question. Um, do you know much of anything about a uh uh Mr. Witch and Mr. Light?
And light, witch and light. They run the carnival of that name, don't they?
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I just they it seems like there's probably more to them, and I didn't know if they were hiding any dark secrets or anything like that.
I think this was their biggest one. Our
Was one
Yeah.
of
last
a
coven
very
thing.
Yeah,
big
the whole coven thing.
secret,
Yeah.
and that they are Shadar-kai. That's
Oh,
very big secret. I
They're what?
I'm so sorry. I should not have.
They're what?
Shudder Kai. That's unusual.
Agreed.
They're what?
Shadar-kai.
Uh,
Come again?
As you are a creature of the Feywild, it means they are a creature of the Shadowfell. Elves that
yes.
have thrived in the shadow.
Like the polar opposite of an Eladrin.
Oh, cool. Neat.
I'm not
I,
misremembering that they like talked to us about that, right? I'm
uh,
suddenly thinking that might have been a private conversation with another player.
No, no, they you
Okay.
know that I forget who told you that they were Shatterkai. Um, Actually, I think it was them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
we had that
They
big
talked about.
conversation with them and stuff,
yeah,
Okay.
and how they had like traded this carnival with someone else or something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, they longed for light, and so they left the Shadowfell and got this carnival.
yeah.
Pretty
Um,
pog of them.
he
Have
does. Nope, good.
I was just did we ask about the Hourglass Coven? I think we
uh,
did, right?
yeah, he just doesn't know
Right.
anything because they haven't done anything notable yet.
Right. Okay. Just
Yeah.
checking. I'm so sorry.
Or at the very least, the things they have done have not been recorded. Uh,
Right.
he does once again disappear into the upper reaches of this room, and return several moments later with um, a very very fancy looking book. This is a tome of red dyed leather with golden threading, spelling out a genealogy, uh, and he does open. He he once again flips through the pages until he can uh, turn the book around and shows to you a what is essentially a family tree around uh, um, of a somewhat noble family within the Shadow Kai of a city something Glomrot, I think is the name of the city.
Gloomrot. I do know this place.
Glomrot,
Fuck.
yes.
Sorry. I know this. I know this place. Sorry.
Uh, one
Oh,
of
he got
the
so excited.
one of the noble families within Gloomrot does in fact have a look up his actual name. But he points to a name within the family tree, which you recognize very easily is Mr. Light. Uh,
um.
the name is Ermius Umbridge,
Oh
one
my
of
god.
the uh, just absolutely wealthiest families within Gloomrot. Mr.
Please.
Light, it would seem, grew very tired and bored with his well-to-do life and fell in with a uh, well, ne'er-do-well, I suppose, is the polite term. Uh, a young man by the name of Nerix Crumple. Yeah, these are I'm so glad I get to tell you guys these names.
I'm fucking thrilled.
And the two of them set out together with a carnival, and Ermius was disowned by the Umbridge family.
Pretty poggerific of him.
Okay, all right.
I Yes, please. I need the spellings of those names. Holy fucking shit. Ermius was witch, is that right?
Light.
Oh, light. Okay, thank you.
Where they have gone since, what they have done is, well, if it has been recorded, it has not been interesting enough to remember.
Au contraire. And he kind of laughs and looks at or chuckles and looks at Court and Arlen.
Or does jazz hands.
Uh, the amount of information you have is truly awe-inspiring, and Tanner will just sort of gesture around to all the books. No, it is a long shot, and I don't think we have much specific information to ask anyway. But are you familiar with an organization that calls themselves the League, or a wizard named Kelek? Perhaps a wizard with a red collar?
Hmm. Kellic. The name does sound familiar. One moment. And for a third time, Yarn Spinner climbs the numerous bookshelves that line the this immense library and returns shortly after there with another book.
Arlen,
A
your eyes are crazy. You're popping out of your head with all of the books around. You must try and contain yourself.
I am, seriously having to convince myself of why I shouldn't just stay here forever.
and at
But
that
we've got a
moment,
job to do.
Yarn Spinner lands directly on the ground again.
Holy shit. Okay. Yeah, probably not going to stay here forever.
Sorry, that just seems like a cartoon moment. I want to stay here forever. Thump. I gotta
So,
go. Um, he sets down a very um, whereas the rest of the books here seem worn and aged. This one is the opposite. It seems not necessarily fresh printed, but there is not even dust on the jacket. There is um, no like smell of mustiness or like a book that has sat long in this dry room. And he sets it down on the table without opening it, and it is a the title that stands out on the cover is an annotated history of Oerth, um, and gives a year to present.
Goddamn.
Uh, it seems to cover probably the last 20 or so years on Oerth, uh, which for those of you who have played, who have uh, those of you who have not played, rather, the Greyhawk setting, Oerth is the world in the Greyhawk setting, whereas Faerun is Forgotten Realms.
Mhm.
Um, both of which are worlds on the air quotes prime material plane. Um, basic, yes, that's the perfect way to. Yes, that is 100% correct. That is the much easier way to describe it.
Yeah.
He taps the book as he sets it down. Kellic is he has been busy. The last he was seen on his world was the end of was at the tail end of was at the tail end of one of the last major conflicts there. He was uh, brought low by a group of adventurers. You're familiar with the general way heroing works. Since then, he has not resurfaced on that world. I don't know where he is. He was brought down by a wizard named Ringlrun. It is perhaps the hope of all in that world that he never returns. Kellic, not. If you would like the full details, you are welcome to read. I would not suggest doing it on a full stomach.
Isn't isn't that a staff? Kellic? We were told Kellic is looking for the Ingerland.
Yes, yes, a staff. Um, I don't know that we got that. Like that was. I don't. I, we were well. Um, he just manifests an illusion of the other mage, which I don't think we had gotten a name of by that point.
It is very weird to see a spider nod, but he nods. Yes, that is the wizard Ringelrun. I think I didn't I give you his name because I thought I popped up his art.
You
Yeah.
did pop up his art, but it was not
Okay,
we didn't get to learn his name.
I mean, I don't know that we learned his name, but I do have Ringle Run's staff that Kralik wants it written in my notes.
got it.
Yeah.
So I just don't know that I put together that that was the wizard that he's looking for.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Like I had gotten the visual of him like trying to try like he wanted the staff of this wizard, but we weren't like
Mhm.
we didn't have a name attached to that. Um. Uh. Well, then it might displease you to know that Kellic is within this realm, within Zabilna's palace, perhaps even, and seeking
Oh,
Ringelrun's staff.
mm, that is that is unfortunate. If he should lay his hands upon it, I hate to think of what things he might visit upon his former world. I
Rest
would
assured, we
perhaps look forward, well, not look forward to, but I would eventually read about them, however.
I assume we intend to inflict upon him the same significance of threat that we do the hags that we have thus encountered. And he kind of looks to his companions for like agreement.
At a bare minimum, we should make sure that our paths cross so that we inquire further about his intentions. It does
Yes.
it does make me curious if perhaps any of his compatriots might have found their way here and be responsible for the death of their own.
Into Fablerise? Certainly not.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I hear you, but prior to our arrival, you would have said that certainly not to the arrival of any strangers, would you not?
It has, as I said, been some time since any have come through here. Certainly
The
the only that I have had has been your companion, the oil can, but I am as lord of this realm, I am aware of, well, I am normally aware of all the creatures that enter it
And
when
and
they enter it.
just turn to the party. Well, we had been tracked by members of the league previously.
yes, Kellic himself was the one who hired the individual who sought to kill the unicorn we spoke of.
Mm. To slay a unicorn is, well, not a task for any with any goodness in their heart. I will set my subjects to searching the forest just to be safe.
I have one more question.
Please.
He kind of gets a little fidgety as his hands go to retrieve the book, um, and he says, "I would not ask that you perhaps look within, but what might you know about this?"
He very gingerly takes the book from you. Uh, well, he holds out his front legs to retrieve the book, if you will hand it to him,
Hmm.
and very with the same delicate touch that he has used on all his tomes thus far. He flips through the first few pages of the book, and around the third or fourth page, there is a a loud crack. There is there is suddenly the smell of not rotting but diseased flesh. The sort of kind of stick sweet smell of rot as there is the crack and a flash and a flash of light and with a that with a very pained shout he doesn't drop the book but holds it out at leg's length for you.
I take it back like very fearfully and apologetically.
It is all right. I will recover. The tome you carry is, well, perhaps if you would prefer this in private or
He kind of looks at everyone else, but then says, "They may know."
there are a number of tomes, ones which, while many would consider them a crown jewel, perhaps, of any collection, that tome is one I would never want within my halls for myself. It it is a tome of power that you can be sure of, and tied to a creature which um, eh, tied to a creature whose selfishness and hunt for both knowledge and power have come at the expense of many. I will not ask how it has come to be in your possession or why. If you continue to read that book, do so carefully. Know that the secrets that lie within its pages are meant for they are meant for a very dark purpose. the thing that the power within its pages can be harnessed for good, but it was not meant to be. And the thing that it might lead you to, many have sacrificed much to attain it. He rubs the largest two of his eyes with his front legs. I do hope that you will all excuse me. That has the wardings on that book to stave off my kind are significant. They should not harm you. They should not interfere. But I will need some time to recover. You are welcome to explore the rest of Fable Rise, or you may continue your journey as you see fit.
Thank you, and my sincerest apologies.
There is no need. I knew that it was dangerous, but my curiosity was too much. The little frog herald opens the door uh, to the outside as Yarn Spinner once again climbs up and out of sight into the upper levels of the of this massive library. The the uh, the the clearing is not far ahead of you as you break through the tree line and um, into the considerably brighter and sunnier and far more colorful clearing of Fable Rise where Yarn Spinner was reading yesterday. And well, that seems like a solid spot for a break. Be
Wahoo!
back at 11:45. 11:45 Eastern for the three of us on the East Coast, 9:45 for the two who are not.
nice.
It would have been really good, but I felt like I needed to explain that it was predetermined.
Oh, you didn't want me stealing your thought. You're like, "Oh, he took my idea."
No, I didn't want it to think I was like I wanted it to be clear this was a precog thing you and I were both like in sync about, not something that I was just following your lead for, you know?
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Hashtag not
Yep.
planned, not scripted.
All right. Welcome back to not Prismere, but Fable Rise. You have just been escorted from the library of Yarnspinner, the archfey of this particular domain. His little froggy herald is escorting you back through the trees towards the clearing um, in which Yarnspinner had previously been um, reading stories to the many awakened animals of his realm. Uh, what would you like to do?
I want Hemlock to read that book for me.
Oh yeah. I should have. Yeah, Ted. The break would have been a good time to establish what I learned. I'm sorry.
They are literally treatises on hags. Basically anything in the monstrous manual that uh, would be covered in those books.
My favorite
Hags.
monster I get to suddenly know all the lore about? Oh boy.
Yeah, like this is not specific. Although I take that back, it does have a couple examples of historic hags that have either made their plays for one of the realms or somewhere even within the mortal worlds on the material plane, as opposed to the Feywild, and have been brought down. There is very little on any current active hags other than um, the other than perhaps the oldest, most feared, and most famous of hags, Baba Yaga, the uh
Is that how you say that?
Baba Yaga. Yeah, ever since I watched John Wick, and the one guy who is supposed to be Russian pronounces it as Baba Yaga instead of Baba Yaga,
Mhm.
that it's stuck in my head, and so now it's Baba Yaga instead of Baba Yaga.
You're
I
so smart and sexy for that, Ted.
For watching a movie and having my brain corrupted. That's not it.
For waking up and seeing the truth, Ted.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Um, it does talk about the she has reached a level of power where she very, very rarely makes deals with mortals anymore, essentially considering it not worth her time. Uh,
Cool.
Girl boss
when
things.
she makes a deal with someone, which always goes as any hag deal does, pretty badly for the person making the deal with her. The entities that she makes deals with are creatures of considerable power in their own right, generally finding themselves in such untenable situations that they are uh if they are to survive, are forced to make a deal with um not the mother of all hags, but certainly the most powerful among their number possibly ever. And given that there was a hag who ruled one of the many levels of hell, who has been overthrown, that is saying something. That this hag, who I believe basically has their own domain of dread, um, is still alive and kicking.
God, what an icon.
Um,
And the illustration that
yeah, that's my question.
they have, you actually have seen. The portraits that were hanging on the walls in Loom Lurch. I'm going to pop this up again. One of the 5 portraits hanging on the wall was this individual, uh, which matches the description of Baba Yaga. The other 3 at the time, of course, were the 3 hags and the raven-haired woman in the final portrait. Um, in terms of weaknesses or anything like that, it is basically presented that hags tend to have their own very individual weakness, which they keep as hidden as possible. Um, there, there is the general rule uh, that hags are as bound to their deals as any other fae that makes a fae pact. They just are, as much as any fae, very adept at twisting those pacts to serve them. Um,
Um, I definitely like summarize for everyone everything that I learn. But I like don't do it in a more interesting way than the book does. Just briefly, like as soon as like I see eyes glazing over, I just but anyway, and just Oh, I had another very specific question as well, but I can't remember what it was.
you obviously, if you think about it, just interject. The 4 of you are brought to the edge of the wood, or the edge of the clearing, rather, to the tree line, looking out into the large clear spot. The sun is brighter up ahead. The webs have thinned, and as much of the twilight as usual is shining down. Here, it actually seems brighter. Actually, instead of simply the twilight you're used to in Prismeer, Faberite seems to have a full bright noon sun. It is certainly warmer and cheerier here in this domain than you have experienced in your uh, during your entire time in Prismeer, even at the Peace of the Wayward Pool. So to
How
go ahead.
how long do you think we should remain here? I do feel both obligated and also deeply, sincerely passionate about potentially helping out Yon Weaver with their um, the poacher problem if we can, but I don't know how long that might take. And Harold is getting farther away from us the longer we wait.
Hmm. Well, it's been 8 years. What is another day or two? And if you feel strongly that we should help the young Spinia, then by all means, let us investigate and see what we can uncover.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
The Herald the Frog Herald, is still with you. He hasn't left. If you
Harold,
have
we
any,
found you. You are now a friend. Sorry.
Boo.
Can you imagine?
Tomato.
hold
Tomato.
on. I need to make some notes. Hold on. If you have um, specific questions, there is also not far off. You can see that the group of animals that was eyeing you suspiciously has thinned out, but a few are still uh, congregated in this meadow, which seems to be a um, a gathering spot of sorts. I mean, it's a clearing.
Banner will stride over there.
As as you approach the critters that are in a circle, a number of small rodents and other uh, woodland fare, couple raccoons, possum. They sort of look up, and
No,
a few of them sort of look at each other and then scatter. But
pardon me. Hello. Is there anybody left?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a handful of them. There's a possum,
Mm,
two little squirrels, couple birds, and of
Pardon
course
me.
your frog is with you.
I am terribly sorry to interrupt. I understand that you have lost a friend. Is this correct?
The possum is the one that answers. Yeah, that's right. It's too close to Hootie. We're
Well,
gonna have to
my
go the opposite way. All right.
uh,
Oh god,
my
okay. Brace yourselves, everyone.
uh, my friends and I, we have just finished speaking with the Jan Spinner, and we have volunteered to help try and discover what has happened. And if someone is in fact responsible, we will do our best to either bring them to justice or, at the very least, bring the individual to Jan Spinner so they can make a decision about it. Um, do you have any idea as to what has happened here?
Well, they found they found they found the body, the north end of the clearing here, and the possum gestures with one tiny little hand towards the northern edge, which is the essentially the direction that Yarn Spinner had walked off. As I said, uh, it's still there if you want to take a look. It's we don't rightly know what to do with it. Just gotta. Wow, thank you. That is, I will take that compliment. Oliver. we 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 didn't really know what to do with it. Don't have. Uh, and we left it for Yarn Spinner, but he was seeing y'all this morning, so it's probably still there. Damned thing. Didn't I mean? There's no blood. Didn't not like it got mauled. We're animals, used to that. But sure enough, dead as dead can be. We thought at first it was y'all, since you came here and something died. But if you've spoken to Yarn Spinner, it shouldn't have been. It couldn't have been you. Yarn Spinner had done something.
Well, we certainly understand suspicion given the coincidence of the two events, but we do greatly appreciate your understanding and your faith in Jan Spinner's wisdom. Um, unless my oh, by the way, I am Bana, and this is Emlock and Arlen and Court. Unless my friends have any questions for you, I think we will go take a look at did your deceased friend have a name?
Sure did. So let me randomly generate that right now. No.
Well, we will go take a look at randomly generated body, and um, we will.
Bryn.
Yes,
Bryn was the name.
Bryn, excellent. We will take a look at Bryn's body, and hopefully that will give us some ideas to what has happened. And we will also try and think of what the appropriate thing is to do. I am I don't mean to be rude, but obviously I do not know how things work here. Um, does Brent have a family, or is everyone uh, just considered the a family of animals? Yeah.
And just one big, I mean, not really family, but we all know each other here. We all see each other on the daily
Mm.
for when Yonspin is coming out.
Well,
Most keep to ourselves, not ourselves, but our kind. We don't.
mm. Well, it is lovely that you all live in such close proximity and are able to get along. Friends, any questions for our possum friend here?
I don't think I have anything else.
Thank you for your time.
Mhm.
Dong dong.
uh, you are led to the a little ways into the woods, into the tree line, and sure enough, laying on the ground is a an adult doe. The well, the carcass of rather. Uh, there, as has been said, there are no apparent wounds. Um, there is no blood. There are no claw marks or teeth marks. Like there's no bite marks, I should say. There's no like gaping wounds that you can see on this animal, and it's not laying in a puddle of blood or anything like that. Um, Certainly, this area of the forest is far quieter. All of the other inhabitants have cleared out away from this area. Your not chaperone, but the Frog Herald seems very uncomfortable being here and sort of hops from foot to foot somewhat nervously uh, while you all are investigating.
Well, if Arlen, there were ever a time for a seance. Tyler?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what to
Okay.
do with that.
We could theoretically do some divination of some kind. Not divination the spell, but like a
Yeah.
divination spell. That might give us something better. Or I mean, even just something as simple as speak with dead.
Yeah. Give me a second to look up what my spell options are on that again.
Yeah. Is it necromancy and divination?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Is there anything else that anyone else wants to do?
Um, Banner would like to look around for any tracks that don't appear to be animal tracks. So basically, any tracks that don't look like they belong here.
And I'll also detect magic, but you can answer his question first.
Um, Go ahead and make an investigation check. This is not particularly difficult, but um, even with a 7, you are. It is very clear there are no non-animal tracks here other than your own.
Gotcha.
the the ground isn't great for tracks right now because I mean it is basically grass and forest and
Mhm.
leaf and all of that. But certainly the only humanoid tracks that you all have seen have come from you. Um, Detect magic. There is um, obviously there is the ambient magic of this realm of the realm of Fable Rise, and fading from the body. I have to look up what the school this spell is. Is it's probably divination, isn't it, Ted? That would make sense.
But detect magic?
Um, Awaken.
Mm. Okay, that makes sense.
Transmutation.
Hmm.
Um, Given that all of the animals here can speak, you are familiar enough with magic to understand that these animals have all been subject to an awaken spell, and there is a a God, what is the word I'm looking for? Residue? Sure, we'll go with that
Hmm.
of necromancy um, uh, on this carcass. Um,
And are there like marks or anything on the body? I get my fucking background feature. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Make me a medicine check with it with advantage just to go with this.
Okay, fair
So I have an
enough.
idea.
Also,
Okay.
thank you for letting me use that instead of animal handling, which I do not have as a skill.
Yeah, I mean, I figure if you were trying to treat the injury of an animal, you probably still wouldn't. You would probably still use medicine
That makes sense.
instead of animal handling. But regardless, um, while there are no large, there's no cuts, there's no puncture wounds, there's no obvious signs of trauma to the body. There are two spots about a foot apart along the neck of this creature that are necrotized. The flesh has already in those two spots blackened and begun to um, decompose, to rot. Um, I guess, yeah, necrotizing is when, yeah, I'm using that word correctly, as opposed to the like necromancy uh, meaning. There, with a kind of cursory inspection, you can the cause of death of this creature is almost certainly some sort of organ failure, as just kind of pushing on the body. Many of the organs are not where they should be at the very least. The damage internally is almost it the fact that the outside is so well preserved, especially with no wounds or anything, uh, everything inside's probably pretty gross. Like, you probably would not want to actually try to autopsy this because that's going to be real gross. Um,
All right. Well,
Okay.
I mean, if y'all are up for it, we can do a little uh ritual, and we'd be able to hopefully ask them a few questions, 5 to be exact. So if we want to come up with what those questions are, we can go in there with the plan.
It's a good idea. It has occurred to me that because these creatures are given intelligence, that there is a chance that this spell might not work, but I think it would be worth the try anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, doesn't um awakening it it's not like a thing that's like fake intelligence. It like changes their brain to be, I think it'll work.
I think so as well, but perhaps it as getting into it as best we can. Yes.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Worth a shot. So I need at least a couple of y'all to help out. Um it's gonna take about an hour. So
I think I've finished my examinations. Can help.
wonderful. Well, we're
Yeah,
gonna start.
if you
He
need
start.
anything.
Yeah. Um I can get the setup done pretty quick. Doesn't take a whole lot. And he kind of like clears a space nearby. Not like with the body in the center or anything like that, but clears a space nearby and um, sets up like a uh, rolls out this little blanket and sets his lantern in the center, and opens it to where it's glowing in all directions. Um, and then sets candles in like uh, 4 points around. Uh, okay, now if everyone take a spot next to a candle, and um, just just kind of go with it. You've gotta let yourself uh get into it, I guess. But and then he'll start like uh vocalizing in like a very like dramatic storytelling way, and the lights of the flames grow and brighten, and you see all kinds of shapes dance around with the story. And uh, after an hour passes, I will then know the spell Speak with Dead, which I will then cast, um, and just kind of rolling it all together. I understand like the way Speak with Dead works is a little bit different, but I was hoping that I could do it a little more ghosty instead of like animating the body. Uh,
Yeah.
but if that's okay, then the like uh, uh the form of the corpse, just in like a black flame with like a pink tinted edge, like stands in the center of the little circle. And okay, what are our questions?
What killed it? What happened? And if there's anything we need to do for it in order to find rest. I'd assume. And he looks at everyone else.
It's a start. We'll see if our questions lead to more questions. Um, Great spirit, lovely creature, tell me, what is it that brought you to meet this end?
I'm trying to remember if so the ghostly form of this doe in the outline of your lantern looks down at its own body, looks looks to each of you. Well, I, I got Okay. Sorry. Oh, I don't think I can say really. I was just having a lovely conversation with one of with one of yarn spinners, and I wished him good night. I turned to go. I and then a little bit later there was just pain and then nothing. Oh dear, I'm dead now. Oh no. I
All things that live come to an end one day. Um,
mm,
it is a tragedy that yours came so soon. Um, Tell me, is there anything that we can do to help you uh, come to rest in the unfinished business we can complete for you?
I'm can't say that there is. I have a simple existence. I'm a deer. I expect to be gotten at some point. I just sort of thought I didn't even hear anything coming up on me. It's so weird.
Can you describe the pain? Was it like any other pain you felt, or something? Any particular location where it was strongest?
Oh, I've been caught and clawed before. I've been bit and scratched, but I mean, I always got away. This it felt more like a burning really than a bite or a claw. Mm, Then I tried to run, but I couldn't move. And then, well, then I think I was here. Nothing. The burning in my neck, and then everything inside just was like it was on fire.
Okay, so it's in your neck first. Can you think of anyone who would have a reason to wish harm upon you?
Oh no, not here in Fable Rise. We get along so well. I mean, sure, things have gotten a little. Well, I mean, there's been more arguments the last couple of days, but certainly nothing violent. I mean,
Mhm.
the the foxes and the hawks and the eagles. I mean, everything's got to eat, but it's not like there's wolves here.
I want to look at Arlen and say, "Do you think that's a question worth pursuing? The asking about why there was arguments,
I think you've got a good ear.
or
Uh, y-
or
You
should we
mentioned
just trust that there's like it wasn't another animal?"
it
Hmm.
feels like it might have been magic
Mm-hmm.
of some kind. These these arguments you mentioned, what were they about? What's got people on edge?
Oh, there's just been I I mean, there's been arguments about everything from who's been hoarding too many acorns to who gets to sit closest to yarn spinner during story time. Oh, I'm going to miss story time.
Oh, don't worry. There are plenty of stories to be heard, no matter which portion of existence you're in. Okay, I think we've got one more question. Um, does anyone have any ideas?
Mm.
Banner?
Oh, Adam was beat BRB'd.
Ah, I see.
We can wait till he gets back if you want. I really got nothing.
I mean, I think we answered the important questions, which are there are no suspects because nothing could do this that belongs here, and that she doesn't really know what happened except that something got her.
Do you have any message or words you'd like us to send to any family or friends?
You just tell you just tell Lord, oh god, my voice is going. You just tell Lord Yarnspinner that I'm very thankful that he was kind enough to awaken me and to fill my days with wonderful stories of faraway places that a simple Joe like myself would never see.
Mm,
Mm.
certainly. Absolutely, we'll do that. Thank you.
Farewell, good friend. It was wonderful to meet you.
You all take care now. And the spirit walks over to its body and uh, does that thing that animals do, where they walk in the circle a few times before laying down. The spirit
Mm.
God,
disappears.
Viking!
Didn't think the first time I'd use this spell would be on a poor little critter.
I'm sorry, y'all are killing me.
Oh,
Okay, well, that was something.
she
What
lived a good life. Hi,
what
Adam.
whatever could it have been then?
Something
Y- y-
magical.
yeah, you may have to go. I don't know how much of all of that Banner heard. So
Oh, I
Uh,
got
we
absolutely
learned
100% of it.
that she the last thing she recalls is uh speaking with the yarn spinner for a brief period,
Mhm.
and then on her way home something got
specifically one
her.
of his apparitions.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, like, yeah, his yeah, one of his ghosts. And then as she like departed, something happened and it burned. And there's necromancy on her body, and like the are they puncture wounds?
There is no actual breaking of the skin.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant by no actual puncture. There are just
Okay, sorry.
two spots, I guess about the size of like a quarter or a nickel,
Mhm.
um, where the skin is very clearly damaged. It is necrotic. It has already begun to, um, and you know that yes, this is a body. It will start to rot, but like this is the equivalent of this is very clearly out of the ordinary. This is advanced rot in what is otherwise a body that is not even a day old.
Um, would it be possible for me to, examine these spots and see if I can come up with any like particular spell that might have caused this?
I wonder if identify could work here. Since identify lets you hmm.
See what spells a creature is under.
Hmm. I mean, we could still ritually cast it and just see if it comes up with anything. It would, if anything, that just waste 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
To answer your question, Arlen, you can yeah, make a nature check. I think would be the best that I can think of. I'm trying to
13.
um you more than okay, maybe not more than anyone else, but more than at least two of your companions, having spent some time speaking to the spirits in the graveyard, you have encountered um, other undead creatures, and you would see something similar in like a ghoul attack or a um, the attack of some sort of undead creature where there is a secondary kind of necrosis to their attacks. Um, you cast identify. Uh, there is uh, obviously there is still the awaken spell, and now the speak with dead spell. There are no other direct spells affecting this body. Whatever it was not a magical spell.
Okay. So it was an attack from some kind of undead creature, it seems. If it wasn't a spell, that means it must be um there must be something on the loose.
I think you've managed to isolate that it has to have been a creature of some kind, and
Hmm. Some kind of creature that employs necrosis.
We just gotta be on the lookout for creatures, sounds like.
A very nasty creature.
Mhm.
don't look at me like that.
Oh, I am
um,
sorry. It is just the way the eyes are pointed on this disc.
could we convene very quietly for a moment? Just the four of us.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, you want me to go away?
Just for a moment. I've just
Hold on. I'll just
Okay, I'll be right
telepathically
over
start
there.
chain
Shoot, shoot that cat
chatting.
away.
Wha- Okay, come on, everybody. The investigators are working.
what if it was the yarn spinner?
I
Would you say
have
that?
not ruled out
Well, I
that
mean, look, I
possibility.
don't I don't know for sure, but like two little bites like things, and I've heard of like spiders that, you know, the venom causes necrosis.
Why would why would why
I
would he
don't
do
know.
that?
I don't know. It's not a hunch or anything that I have anything. It was just a
Well,
I don't know.
he he is a spider. They spin webs to entrap creatures and feed off of them.
But he's so
Well,
nice.
that
I mean, he
would
is
be
also an
how it
archfey, which
works.
is a little different, but like I don't know. I mean, he was
Then
the last one that she talked to.
then why would he put us up to this?
Eh, Well, to be fair, we offered.
But
Yeah, but he wanted
He
us to.
did suspect us right at first. I'm not saying that I think it was him. I'm just like voicing a possibility.
And if it were him, it would make sense to throw the accusations towards the newcomers.
but it does not answer the question of why now. It seems that all of the creatures here are out of sorts, not just because of the loss of Breen, but because they cannot recall something like this happening.
What if it is the case that this is the first batch of many that have been taken to this place, as Prismere is some place that takes people of other planes? I do not want to again say that this is certain, but it, the more we discuss it, the more apparent it might be.
Quart's shaking his head. Did you see him reading those stories? He's so chill.
To catch more flies with honey.
Very well. How do you suggest we proceed?
Makes the most sense to continue investigation for evidence, and if evidence continues to point in this particular path, then we have our answer. But I
Well,
should like to hope that it won't.
Yeah, let's set forward to work to prove this egregious theory false, because I don't want it to be true either.
well,
Um,
why do we... Mm, why don't we just leave it at that? If it is true, then yikes, we should get out of here. If it's not, we'll come back to it, right? It is he agreed that it was, secondary for us.
Hmm, that's a good point. Banner, do you think we should continue on, or should we con- or should we stay here for a little longer?
Well, I am quite concerned that if we leave, I do not think it is likely that we will make it back here to either investigate further or, even worse, how many additional creatures may be gone by the time we get back. But I don't see another option. I do not know what the next step in an investigation would be. We have very little information after uh, Alan's incredible display.
I
We
don't think we should be working to try to prove this theory. I think we should be working to try to follow up on anything else. I just wanted to put
well,
it
Agreed.
in the back of y'all's mind.
yes, I mean, I agree, but it is that part, the following up on anything else. I don't know what else there is to follow up on.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
we
not
could
saying
try
I'm
to.
not saying there is nothing, right? I am simply saying I don't know what to do next.
If it were a creature, some kind of maybe undead or um, something like that, like they have to have left some kind of trail, some kind of tracks. We could try looking.
Did we already look for tracks?
Well, yeah, that makes sense. We probably did.
Well, I mean, I looked for tracks, but I looked for tracks of a creature that would leave uh, some sort of prints in the ground. If this is
Maybe a ghost or something.
undead, particularly some sort of apparition.
Oh, are we gonna look for slime? I don't follow.
I don't know either.
We might yet find some traces. Most undead has something. Sort of the whole point is they are part of something that should not still be on this plane that continues to be on the plane.
Mm,
Well,
just,
perhaps
I'm just
perhaps we give ourselves another day, and if we make no more headway, then we decide to move on.
I think that is reasonable. Arlen, how do you feel?
I I want to try to figure out what happened to this poor dear woman.
Of
And it's
course.
kind of a play on words.
Do do
Um,
uh do we know based on our conversation what Bryn would like done with her body?
oh, we didn't really ask about that.
Is
She
no
she said she
concern.
didn't need much. She's just a deer, right?
I can put her into the ground. Court, do you have any concerns? Anything you'd like to make sure is said?
Mm, I think we should move on. I really don't think we should dwell on this. I think it's trouble, you know?
But
Certainly.
I hear you, Court, but we know that if nothing else, there is at least a killer here. Yes?
Mm, yeah.
Yes, and so I think that investigating just to see, take another day to see if we can find any more information to narrow down who this killer might be. Um, whether it is whether it proves or disproves Arlen's uh, concern. I don't think we are moving forward necessarily trying to do either thing. What we are doing is just trying to find as much additional information as we can so that we do the most we can to make sure that we do not leave all these little creatures uh, still in peril.
Okay, but none of you go stealing any of those spiders' books.
No, good heavens. I've done stealing books, thank you.
You picked a doozy.
It's better I have it than they do.
Of that, I have no doubt.
You take the time to dig a grave for the doe Bryn.
Psh, sorry.
All
Uh,
6 seconds to cast
yeah.
Mold Earth. Yep. I
But I
just
do
said you took the
say,
time, not it was a
okay,
lot of time.
I'll take more time to recite not a eulogy but a poem for her. Oh, do you want one?
No, sorry, I was yawning. Sorry.
Well, I mean, you do have the book of poems, don't you?
Okay, hold on.
I mean, if I'm
Let's
being a
see.
jerk, you can just say, no, I'm not doing that.
Sunset and evening star on and one clear call for sorry, sunset and evening star and one clear call for me, and may there be no more moaning at the bar when I put out to sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound or foam, when that which drew from our boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne for though from out our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
Lovely.
I actually like that one. That was just a random
Yeah,
turn too. I liked that.
that was good.
You do notice that as you are reading this poem, the trees around you, which previously had been devoid of the creatures that would normally be nesting in the branches or in the hollows of the trees, have begun to refill, and the birds line up on the branch, and the raccoons are in their little hollows, and uh, they all sit solemnly as you read the poem. Um, you say the last few words, the the congregation of animals begins to thin to return to their respective homes or other business. Um, it is
Mm.
still
None of these trees are sentient, are they? Just checking.
you
Oh,
have seen
I've been telepathically communicating. I have the helm of telepathy. We've not been speaking out loud.
No, just like in case any trees saw what happened and they happen to be sentient trees
Oh,
or
that would be
dryads
smart.
or anything.
you have seen no indication that any of the plant life here has been awoken the same as the animals. No, uh,
Oh, all
it
right.
is still uh, probably about midday by hemlock reckoning. Uh, there is it has been several hours since you were with uh, since you met with Yarn Spinner and departed his library. Um, the the animals around you have all gone back to their regular business, and um, a, 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 a number of them have begun to head to have begun to head past you towards the clearing, and you can hear them murmuring about hoping Yarn Spinner is still going to read a story today and wanting to get prime spots to listen. Um, what's the plan?
Be really cool if I had utility spells instead of these awful, angry combat spells. No, it's okay. I've got plenty of utility here. I think I think it might be worth it to not be here when he's telling his stories and
What are you thinking?
see if someone is straggling or taking time to get here, if they might be found or caught, or whatever it might be would be like whatever is killing them might be avoiding the large group because get them that would catch them.
We're on watch duty, essentially.
Yeah, potentially spread us all apart without the intent to engage, but like go four different ways and see what is to be or five because I've got a familiar. Um, and see if we find anything just by throwing ourselves out as bait? Question mark.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I'm down.
It's not like super smart, but I mean it could work, help us out.
And what if uh, what if one of us doesn't counter the killer and becomes a target?
Mhm, we'll scream really loud.
Run
Ah!
like hell, yeah.
Okay. Just sorry, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't interrupting anyone. Um, I just want to summarize, make sure you are going to wait for Yarn Spinner uh, to begin his story, as the animals have indicated that hopefully that will be happening soon. Um, and then disperse throughout the forest, hoping to spot something that is moving around that shouldn't be, or is or is actively hunting. Am I understanding
Yes.
that? Okay. Um, it it is not for another hour or so that uh, Yarn Spinner um, comes, not lumbering because he's graceful, but uh, before Yarn Spinner makes his way into the clearing and settles himself in nearly the exact same spot that he was when you saw him the previous day. He has a large tome, somehow even larger than the one he was reading yesterday, and um, he settles himself, and the animals have all lined up um, to eagerly listen to the story he begins. And as he um, s- before he reads, before he begins to read, he does address everyone and just hope that even with the loss of their friend, everyone is still feeling safe in here in Fable Rise, and assures them all that the newest guests to Fable Rise are looking into the situation, and hopefully uh, everyone can uh, uh, rest safe tonight, and be assured that uh, this sort of thing has never happened before in Fable Rise, and will hopefully never happen again. And as he begins to read from the book, uh, you know, once upon a time, you all spread out into into the trees surrounding the clearing wherein he reads. Um, I'm assuming you're just kind of going off in cardinal directions. Is anyone going off together? Is anyone going anywhere specific? Uh, I mean, you only know of three other locations, including the grave. But is there anything anywhere specific, or are you just sort of
Banner will
wandering?
head in the direction where where Bren's body was found.
Okay.
Head into the woods over there.
And I'll be summoning my bat to fly in a different direction as well. So we've got 5 directions.
Okay. Um,
Someone's gonna die tonight.
well, this is still daytime at this point. This is probably uh, it took about an hour after all of that. So this is 1 o'clock Hemlock Reckoning. So with that's just how I'm going to address time now, because
So
there's no
funny.
clocks. Um, he You are not sure exactly how long it takes him to read this story, but as you continue to meander your way through Fable Rise, um, the animals eventually begin uh, to return to the woods. There is no creature that stands out. There are a number of animals um, who make their way to the clearing certainly later than everyone else. A number of squirrels who are uh, storing food, and so don't get to the story right away. Um, but probably 30 minutes or so after Yarn Spinner has gone out to begin reading, it becomes apparent to you that there is not a single creature walking through the woods that is not, if they are still there, they are making their way to the clearing. These story readings are apparently so popular that whatever happens in Fable Rise stops at story time. And he clearly reads for another hour or so, uh, wherein you see not a bit of fur, a feather, or anything that uh, 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 or and even Johnny sees nothing resting within tree hollows or anything like that, except the smallest of creatures who cannot physically make the way young. Uh, um,
And Court, like, sneak back to try and, like, spy on Storytime?
sure.
Because he's probably gonna get kinda bored and, spy on Storytime from a distance, like in a tree.
Yeah, you are certainly able to do that. The animals pay you virtually no mind. I mean, they do look up at you if you go near them, but for the most part, their attention is focused almost entirely on the on the large spider who reads very delicately out of a book, a story about um, a sorry, need some water.
Uh-oh.
It is another story of high heroism as a group of adventurers return to uh, a little city uh, named a little city named Sink on the world of Nentir, uh, wherein a strange series of maulings has begun to strike among the nobility, and this group of adventurers who previously had uh, relieved the town of a warlord problem. They have come back not knowing there was a problem. They have come back just to meet back up, since it has been some time since they adventured together, and find themselves solving this new mystery that is plaguing this town. Um,
Ted,
Hmm.
is this a D&D story of yours?
Probably, yeah, probably. I mean, I'm sure I'm pulling from a campaign that somebody ran. Um,
I appreciate that you don't know.
it probably is. I mean, I'm sure it is. But when the story eventually wraps up, the animals once again disperse into the forest. The day has, uh, like I said, he speaks for another. He reads rather for another um, couple hours, uh, going from that story to a history of um, a history of the realms, basically an overview of um, some some history of some world, uh, which is certainly far less interesting to many of the creatures who seem to be far more interested in uh, more story and less history. But eventually, the um, the story Yarn Spinner does finish the second book. Um, Little has transpired in the woods. Like I said, once story time began, the woods seemed to virtually empty out. Um, you can make your way back over to where Bryn is now buried, and um, other than the fresh mound of dirt, little seems disturbed. Um, Hemlock, you either you or Johnny make your way through, and are by the hut made of webbing that you all stayed in last night, and other than the darkened spot where the bonfire that Banner lit has now gone out, and um, a a a a strange sort of residue on the trees across where Banner indicated that he had spoken to a uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Apparition of um, of Yarn Spinner. Nothing piques your interest at all. Arlen, your course takes you back by uh, the large library that you had spoken to Yarn Spinner in before. The doors are open, um, uh, whether in haste or purposefully. Yarn Spinner did not close them on his way out, um, and you can see the faint mushroom lights still lighting up the interior of the library. Um,
I'll peek my head inside and take a look around. I'm not
um,
like digging through papers or like anything like that, but just want to see if there's anyone in here or any like obvious like things out of place.
the library glows faintly from the mushrooms, and at first there is almost no sound. There is very little moving here. The books, um, the air here is very still because there are not windows or anything like that. It's meant to be kept dry to protect the books inside. Despite the very obvious magical protections on them. Um, and it is only as you turn to go that the sound of an object clattering to the floor catches your attention. It is from there are, including the two outer walls, there are essentially 4 rows, 3 aisles, if that makes sense. And coming from basically the middle of the building, I don't know why I did just say that. Um, the the clattering as you turn around, something is moving within um is moving within the structure, but other than whatever it was, whatever object fell, you don't even with your passive, you don't actually hear any footsteps. There's no sounds of wings flapping or anything like that.
Hmm. I'm gonna just hang out by the door for a minute and see if I can, you know, hear anything else or pick up on anything else. But um, I'm suspecting that there might be something invisible, but I have no way to like check that. So
Do you have a general direction? Would fairy fire be able to help you?
I don't. Do I? Uh, I don't have fairy fire.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You got mischief.
Yeah.
You wait for another uh on possibly 15-20 minutes. Nothing. It's hard to see anything even with the glow from the mushrooms, and certainly the sheer size of the room makes it different. I can uh, I will bring you over to the map. Well, I will just bring all of you over to the map, even though Arlen is the only one here, just to give you an idea. Uh, oh, wait, hold on. The doors are not open.
I really like the outside of this place, though.
Yeah.
Why can't I? Why? Come on, roll 20. Let me select the line so that I can delete it.
Worst.
There we go. I got it.
I just drag across. I don't try to
Oh,
get
it's
that by
lovely.
itself. Ooh, so spooky.
So you can kind of get a sense without going in that there are a number of areas to this room that are simply out of line of sight. Like these center bookshelves that you see go up a number of stories,
Mhm.
essentially into darkness for you. So you can't really see across them or anything like that. Um, like I said, the air you don't hear any footsteps, you don't hear any wing beats, and in the relative silence of this room, your own heartbeat sort of begins to drown out other sounds.
Okay, as far as this place is starting to give me the heebie-jeebies. I'm just going to, given that I have nothing that I can do to try to like find anything out right now, I'm going to just kind of start making my way back to wherever we were going to meet back up at.
Okay. Uh, as story time comes to an end and the animals disperse, and you actually pass Yarn Spinner, who is heading back to this area, and uh, as much as a spider can express surprise, um, uh, I would have thought you'd have been in the clearing. Is there
Uh,
something I can help you with, Harlan?
well, we're just doing our investigation, trying to get to the bottom of things, and uh, I was wandering around, kind of trying to make myself bait, you see, and it didn't work.
Oh dear.
But I will say, like, I passed by your library, and I heard something get knocked over in there, and the door was wide
What?
open. Um, but like I peeked inside, and I could not see anyone or hear any footsteps. Like, I don't know, it's like there was something like invisible or not fully there that was like, I don't know, maybe like a poltergeist or something. I don't know. I don't have any proof, but you
Holt?
got
He looks absolutely like his little mouth, his mandibles and the little hands that are up near his mouth are all sort of like twitching at the thought of this. Uh, this the idea that in his precious books there might be a poltergeist.
yeah, I hate the sound of it too, but like I don't know. I mean, that's what it seems like. Maybe I like I said, I have no proof. I have no way to like, see invisible things or know if there's something on like the ethereal plane. They could be right there, but not.
If I get to my webs, I can sense anything moving around within them. But you're right. If they were on some other plane, or if they were able to pass through my webs, I would never know.
Hmm.
You, you and your friends must continue this investigation. I You are welcome to stay here in Fable Rise. You are, if you'd like, I can, I will be happy to give you the use of the guest rooms within my library. But you absolutely, I can't have my library be haunted, Arlen.
I understand. That sounds terrible, and I like ghosts. But yeah, we'll let me meet up with them and we'll chat and we'll see where to go from here.
He scuttles off into the library with the two books that he was reading tucked up as close to his body as he can. You are able to return to the clearing where Court is resting in the upper branches of a tree, and your other companions.
I'm pretty far away.
Oh,
I'm
right,
pretty
right. You
far
said
away.
that. Yeah,
I'm at a distance.
you were in the back row of
I'm being
the book party.
semi-sneaky.
Uh, but the rest of you can meet up there, um, or at your hut if that was where you had intended to meet.
Hut makes sense.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, did anybody find anything? Did anybody get attacked?
No.
Where's Court?
Oh, I go to the hut too. Don't worry.
Okay, oh, Court, okay, you're not dead. Wonderful.
Oh, I got bored. I too did a story time
Oh,
at a
Neat.
sneaky
I hope it was a
distance,
good
though.
story.
Don't worry.
See, this is the part where I wait for any of y'all to say if y'all had anything interesting happen before I tell you about the definitely interesting thing that happened to me.
Okay, well, I guess nothing interesting happened for any of us, so we should just.
Yep.
No, no, that's you missed the whole point.
Oh, what is?
I think there's a ghost. Darn.
Hmm.
What?
All right,
Pretend
gang.
that I
Let's
have
all get in the
sunglasses.
mystery machine.
Well, okay, so I was wandering around and I got back over to the library and the door was wide open. Which I don't know. I don't know why a ghost would need to use the door, but you know, who knows? Maybe it was like not actually a ghost, but someone pretending to be a ghost. Like, I don't know.
that
But
sounds
Man
ridiculous.
Jenkins.
And I
but
would have gotten
I
away
pulled
with it
ahead
too if it
in
wasn't for you crazy kids.
and there was nothing going on and I was like, okay, well, it's nothing, whatever. But then something fell, but there was no one there to make it fall. And so maybe like that's why the yarn spinner has no idea what's going on because like this is their realm. Like we entered it and he appeared in our freaking dreams. Like, you know, maybe it's something that's like not fully actually here. Maybe it's like hiding on the ethereal plane.
Well,
Wait, is the ethereal plane here? Like,
Yes.
okay. Cuz
I
like I know
wouldn't.
that it's on the material plane, but like I don't know if it's everywhere or not.
You know, I said that with significant confidence for someone who wasn't completely sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, cuz like spells like blink and stuff would work here.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. So and then the fate the yarn spinner kind of like caught me on my way on his way back to the library and was like, "What are you doing?" And I like told him that I think it's a ghost, and he was very worried about that. He begged and pleaded for us to continue our investigation because he really does not want his library haunted.
Uh, Sounds like perhaps we should ask permission to spend the night in the library.
Ooh, that might be interesting. Classic stakeout.
Would it be
Hmm.
there again after it's already been there and seen? Well, it has been made aware of you?
Maybe maybe it didn't get what it needed, and it might have to come back.
True. And I think that might be the right call.
Well, the yarn spinner said we could stay in the guest rooms, but we might have to clear it with them if we can stay actually in the library. They're in the library now. I guess we could go talk to them.
Sounds like a wonderful idea to me.
Give them a little debriefing.
You all return to the library. Yarn Spinner is not immediately apparent, but just calling him, he descends down from some of the upper levels. Um, Forgive me, I was putting away my reading. Have you made any progress on this? What did you call it? A poltergeist?
Again, it's just a theory. But not really. Not since we last spoke. It's only been like what, 10 minutes? Like,
30 or so.
oh, I don't have a watch. Anyways, my friend Banner here had a fantastic idea. What if uh Mr. Geist didn't get what they were coming for, and they might return? So what if we did like a spooky sleepover in the library?
Uh,
We'll hide out and keep watch and see if they return.
um, yes, I did offer you the guest rooms here.
Yeah, but I mean like right here, like on the library floor. Sleeping bags, scary stories, s'mores, the whole 9 yards.
Let's stakeout.
Uh, okay. Um, certainly won't be as comfortable, but whatever you
Oh,
need to
we can
do.
rough it. A couple of these guys don't even sleep. Okay, that's not true. Only one of them don't sleep.
Thank you.
Huh, that's unfortunate. I find I quite enjoy dreaming, and that is
Oh yeah, I had this crazy dream the other day. Like I was back at my house, but it wasn't quite my house, and like my uncle was there, but like it was kind of weird. Like he wasn't really like, but he was. You get it.
fascinating.
Quite surreal.
Uh, I just when I am asleep, I am free to create my apparitions, which uh, allow me to, as we did the other day, Banner, have conversations or
Mm.
keep watch over my realm.
Oh,
You
so
are
so you were asleep whenever um the doe uh that happened? Because she said that she spoke to your apparition right before.
yes. Before I came to see you, Banner, I mean, after the story I read yesterday, that was the evening story. And he waves two of his front legs in an approximation of air quotes, a bedtime story uh, for the denizens and for myself. And then, uh, as is my way, I walked around Fable. Well, I mean, I went to sleep, but uh, the apparitions uh, walked around Fable Rise, spoke with some of my denizens who were still awake, and then spoke to Banner.
Are you in like, fully aware of everything, like in total control, or does the spirit take you where it takes you, kind of thing?
Hmm, I hadn't really thought about it. I believe I am in control of the apparitions. That is how I am able to remember
Mm-hmm.
what it is that they do. and more importantly, what it is that they hear. And he once again looks over at Banner. Uh, yeah, you will. Uh, I suspect if you are guarding here this evening, you will perhaps see one of my apparitions this evening. I will be sure to say hello to everyone before I go out to keep watch on my domain. Uh,
Uh,
if you'd like, I can show you to the guest rooms, and you can decide whether you would like to stay in them this evening or stay here in the central library. I I I would ask that the bonfire not there is a hearth in one of the guest. No, there isn't. Uh,
No worries.
Fire and very old books do not mix well.
I definitely understand. We will have what I like to call cold s'mores. They're s'mores, but they're cold.
Perhaps this might be forward or untoward, perhaps. But would it be possible? I can't even imagine how this could be feasibly done, but to observe the appearance of the apparitions? I, I don't know that it would prove helpful, but should it be the case that you are not in full faculty of one of them, that very well could be the source of, well,
That would require me to take one of you to my private sanctum here within the library, and well, quite uh, it is quite the climb. Do you? I suppose your I suppose you, Court, could fly if none of the rest of you could. There is no ladder here that will reach my sanctum. That is why I intended to have the apparition come through the library to 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 check in. But if you believe that seeing its formation would help,
I don't know that we should put you to all that trouble just for the presumption.
uh, it would be more trouble on your part than mine. Uh, but I can always move my sanctum later with some effort. Y- you can see from the spinnerets uh, on the back of his large body, he begins to weave a bit of web, and within 30 or so seconds has a sizable like half wall that he just sort of plunks onto the ground.
Oh, I think we should do well just to rest here and wait. I think Arlen is correct. This creature is likely to return if it were here in the first place and thought it was caught.
So, I, for one, would like to take you up on the offer to see the guest rooms. I figure the more of the layout we understand, the better. I still believe that staying on the library floor is probably the best idea, but having a better understanding of our surroundings can only be helpful.
Of course. This way, please." And he walks you through the library. I will drag
Yeah.
your tokens over. Um, the library itself is, like I said, it's sizable. It is massively tall. The light that comes from these mushrooms on this level does not reach all the way to the ceiling. The um, the only other visible door, which is on the layer, so you won't see me ping here. He indicates leads over to the guest rooms, which are a pair of small rooms that there are no beds in them, but there are a number of incredibly overstuffed and very comfortable recliners, um, very clearly intended for uh, for the kind of reading that you do sort of late at night,
Mm.
where you just sort of read until the book hits you in the face, and you wake up and you read some more, and you keep doing that without actually reading much until the book hitting your face doesn't really wake you up anymore.
Why you gotta call me out like that, bro?
I'm just speaking from
Right.
experience. And there are two such rooms, and two chairs each. The little landing outside the two rooms is simply more um, um, it is more reading space. There are a number of bookshelves here on the one wall, but they are um, th- this is not like a Dewey Decimal sorted area. This is books that have been pulled to be enjoyed but have not been returned yet. You see a number of titles from whoever the last guest to stay here was, which you know has been several ages. These books are covered in dust with titles, and I will not take credit for these, but I love them. So you have things like Where the Feywild Things Are. You have Lord of the Fairy Rings. You have Claretta's Web. These are a number of
Love it.
fictional stories rather than history volumes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we have run a little bit over time. So as you all settle in for your stakeout here in Yarn Spinner's library, there is a period where Yarn Spinner pulls one of the books, pulls one of the many story tomes off, and heads out back into the clearing and just says, "It's time for a good night story, and then I will return presently. You are welcome to join me, or you may stay here and prepare for this evening's activities." And he wanders out to the clearing to read a one last story to the awakened animals that make up the population of Fable Rise. You are left behind in the quiet library. The soft glow from the mushrooms, which suffuses most of the rooms. The quiet, almost tomb-like quiet of the library settles over you, and you will have some time before it is actually, air quotes here, bedtime, uh, to settle in and eat, for those two of you that still do, and prepare. But we will get to all of that next week.
Woo.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
Yahoo!
Thank you all for bearing with me since that ran a bit longer than I expected. Uh,
That's okay.
just wanted to hit a
Yeah,
solid
yeah.
breaking point rather than in the middle of your planning. So I hope everybody had a good time.
Yeah!
Thank you for this little sidetrack.